You probably heard about the SCOTUS opinion on the January 6th insurrectionists charged with federal obstruction by the Department of Justice. Those defendants could get their charges dismissed. I'm Steffanie Rivers. You're watching my channel. Let's talk about it. Of all the people charged with crimes in connection with the January 6th insurrection, about 1,300, less than 5 of them were Black people. Now, all of a sudden, the Supreme Court feels the need to weigh in and protect the white people from further prosecution. That's the bad news. If the 1,300 lawbreakers were not white, we already know what would have gone down different, that it would have gone down differently. The good news is in all of this is that the SCOTUS decision doesn't affect Donald Trump's January 6th case. His charges have to deal mostly with witness tampering for trying to send fake electors to Congress for the final certification of the vote and inciting people to commit obstruction. If you think that the Supreme Court of the United States would protect January 6th defendants if they were Black, hit me up in the chat and let me know what you think. I think not. In fact, the one person, the one Black guy that I know was involved because he said he was there mostly as a journalist, and I interviewed him. And so I'll put the link in the chat to that interview. I've interviewed him twice. Once right after he got charged, and the second interview was right after the first anniversary of the January 6th insurrection. And so yeah, they if it was differently, if it was the numbers, the racial dynamics were different, do you think that SCOTUS would be protecting January 6th defendants? I'm Steffanie Rivers. You're watching my journal. I'm multicasting on several platforms. You could be watching on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, on whatever platform you're watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. Now, secondly, in all of this SCOTUS decision, of the 1,300 defendants charged in connection with January 6th, more than half pleaded guilty and are already sentenced. So they're already serving their sentence. Their charges also included other offenses. So in addition to obstruction of justice, these the ones that are already serving, they had other offenses added in to the obstruction of justice. Now, if you plead guilty to a charge and a crime and you get sentenced for that, there is little to no chance that your sentence will be overturned. Why? Because you pled guilty, duh. That's just how it works. Now, there were just about 52 of the 1,300 that were charged. 52 January 6th defendants only had obstruction of justice charges filed against them. 27 of them are already incarcerated. So if those 27 that have already been incarcerated pleaded guilty, then guess what? They're not getting out either because they pled guilty. But the rest of them, the 25 that are left that only face obstruction charges that have not been sentenced yet, they could have gotten a get out of jail free card simply because they have waited until the very last minute. And like we said, the Supreme Court has decided, sent down the opinion that the Department of Justice misused their authority by charging these people with obstruction of justice. So there's that. And we're going to talk about, I am watching the text. You can send me a chat, send me a question in the chat or a comment in the chat. I am watching that. So you can send me that information, and then we'll talk about it. Now, remember when Hell's Angels, bikers, gang members were the only people who had tattoos? Now everybody is tatted up, including the cops. Dallas Police Department apparently is one of the few that has required its recruits to cover up their tattoos while on duty. Now, that is until a recent change. Now, the DPD cops don't have to cover up their tattoos. Now, aside from walking around looking like a human billboard, repping all your friends and your family and the homies who ain't here, and the slogans and your affiliations all over your body, I hope people in charge of recruiting cops will take just as much time to figure out what the tattoos represent, and not just let people who are wearing them just show up and get a job, or however else all the other criteria that they had. Some tattoos we know are harmless, but others could be harmless. They could and do symbolize hate and or other negative propaganda. And now they've just got cleared to walk the streets with a gun and a badge. So we need more standards. We don't need less standards. If you are a police officer and you know anyone who is, let me know how you feel about that. Do you think it's okay that police officers or anybody at this point should be able to, an authoritative position, should be able to wear tattoos no matter what they are? Should they have to cover them up? All of that. How do you feel when you go into an establishment and the person cooking or serving, and I'm not saying I feel one way or another about it. I just know that it used to be only certain people. Now it's just everybody who has tattoos, and not just in hidden spots, but all over the place. So that's what we're talking about today, that these people, are getting extra consideration that some of us don't get in life. All of a sudden, now, when they see that it's not just certain people doing certain things, now they don't, of course, it was never just Black people who were breaking the law. But of course, that is the propaganda, that's the narrative that they put out there. But now something like a January 6th happens, and you see 95% of the people who were insurrectionists and rioting and all of that they are white people. Now all of a sudden the Supreme Court feels the need to protect them and come out with a ruling to protect them. And we know if it was the other way around, we wouldn't have gotten that consideration. If you think I'm wrong, let me know. And nobody has said anything yet, because I know that I'm right. Now, it was piss poor police standards that contributed to the murders of those school children in Uvalde, Texas, who were shot and killed by the gunman. It has taken 2 years, but the other day, the former Uvalde schools police chief, his name is Pete Arredondo, and the former officer, Adrian Gonzalez, they were indicted by a grand jury on multiple counts of child endangerment and abandonment over their actions and inactions and failure to protect, failure to immediately confront the shooter. Now, remember, that's why they signed up for the job, because they want to protect the kids. They want to be in a position, if anything happens, if a threat comes on campus, they're there to protect the kids. Yet they did not do that. And that's why they are under indictment now. There could be other indictments, but and hopefully it won't take as long as this one did. But let me know how you feel about that. Here's I did have a picture of them, but how they look. And so yeah, it's been 2 years last month that the Uvalde shooting occurred, and about 19 children and 2 teachers were shot and killed by one lone gunman while the police officers stayed holed up in the hallway saying they didn't have a key to the door, some ridiculousness like that. So yeah, if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. Now, just doing a round robin of some law enforcement stories that I wanted to comment on instead of doing them individually. So that's what's up. Now, here's the last one. Let me ask you this. Should criminal background questions be removed from job applications? Have you filled out an application lately and someone has asked you on it about your criminal history? And how do you feel about that, knowing that if a man with 34 felony convictions can still have enough favor to be elected president of the United States, then why should you or anybody else be questioned on a job application about your criminal history? I think it should be removed. Why do we hold people who work at fast food restaurants or anywhere for that matter to a higher standard than we do a presidential candidate? Make it make sense, people. Now, Donald Trump has been convicted of falsifying business records, lying about those, the use of campaign funds. Also, he's been held guilty in a civil case. He was convicted of S-ing a woman in a department store dressing room. It was a civil case because the statute of limitations had run out on that case. So because the statute of limitations had run out for criminal charges to be filed against him in the case, then it was a civil case. It was up to her, the agreed to bring the case. And there are at least 2 more cases pending against this dude, Donald Trump. This is not an endorsement for Joe Biden, of course. That debate last week was a televised display of 2 grumpy old men serving word salad. And you want to tell one to shut up and sit down. You want to hope the other one doesn't fall down. That's really what was going on. Now, how do you know when Trump is lying? Because his mouth is moving. How do you know that Biden is telling the truth? Well, his confused facial expressions and his tortoise-like movements leave us focused on his health and not on fact checking what he was saying. Maybe that's his strategy. It's working for him. But at any rate, are these the 2 best candidates that America has to offer? My 8-ball says no. And you know what? I keep telling myself I'm going to have my 8-ball right here so I can do this, but I keep forgetting to get it. Anyway, I'm tired of having to choose between 2 people who only care about me and mine when it benefits them. Trump said his mugshot endears him to Black people. And Biden said, if you don't vote for him, you ain't Black. Okay? Don't tell me. I don't want to hear any of that. But that's what's being offered to us as a whole, as a monolith, as a group. They just think one way or another about us and not as individuals who need to be. So yeah, all that. In case you don't know, though, Dr. Cornel West is running for president as an independent. And I want you to, I'm not telling you how you should or should not vote, but a lot of people, we want to vote, but when you put the 2 people before us from the 2 main parties, Republicans and Democrats, then we kind of cringe at the choice that we have to choose. So again, Dr. Cornel West is running for president. He stopped by Dallas-Fort Worth a couple of weeks ago on a campaign stop, and his name will be on the ballot in November. Now, if you want to exercise your right to vote, but neither of the 2 candidates from the Democrats or the Republicans excite you about voting, and you're not caught up in this guilt trip that people try to put on us about us splitting the vote and taking votes away from a majority candidate. You could look at West's platform. I'll just pull up the front page of his so you can see it. Let me see. Oh, well, of course, you know what he looks like, but that's it. I think it's Cornell. Let me see what the name of it is. CornellWest2024.com. So if you want to look into his platform, because again, it's not about just voting for somebody just because, or you know how they do. They vote for people just because. They vote against us just because. If you want to vote for him just because, that's your business. But you could just go and see what his platform is. He might be, talking about something that you and he might be willing to come to your city if you ask him for a campaign stop. So that always is an option. Yeah, Dr. Cornell West is running for president. So he might even come by, like I said, if you're having trouble, if you think you want to invite him. I know someone who's in contact with his campaign. And so yeah, hit me up in my, you can inbox me or send me an email at info@SteffanieRivers. It's my name, info@StephanieRivers.com. And I will send you information if you want it. At this point, I could care less about supporting a mainstream candidate whose interest in me doesn't make it past the win. Once they get the win, just like some relationships, once they get what they want, then they ready to move on. A win for them has never been a win for us. So we should stop thinking about politics in that way. I know we want to vote for the winner. We want our selection of a candidate to be the winner, but sometimes it's not about winning and losing, especially the way I look at it is we haven't won for hundreds of years. We haven't won for generations. So no matter how we voted, our candidate might have won, but our situation, our circumstances, our generational efforts don't win time and time again. So I'm not going to be guilt tripped into voting for somebody just because my vote might be the one to tip. It's never really mattered anyway, because at the end of the day, their interest in us stops at the win. So to find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. Thank you so much, and you have a super